Well, Anthony, you want to kick it off? Let me step out. Excuse me. Let me step out of the green room.
Oh, am I turning mine off? All that work, I'm
Why don't you
done.
step on stage?
Yeah, I need to step on stage.
Yes.
All right. Let me see. Wait, I'm trying to find my way to the stage right now. All right, there we go. All right, we're on stage. All right.
You have a stage background.
I do?
You should no. You should get an image of a stage. So when you go to stage, you're like your background's you on like a big stage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I
Go
like
from the
it.
green room to the stage.
All right. Well, let's jump into this. You ready, Anthony? I think you're ready. You've been ready to go since we arrived 20 minutes ago. All right. Let's kick it off then. All right. So welcome to the presentation, Jim, everybody. My name is Brian Sparks. I'm an executive communication coach with Heroic Voice Academy. My co-hosts are Anthony Lee, founder and executive communication coach at Heroic Voice Academy. Also with us is Craig Foreman, also an executive communication coach and man of great talents. Irma Romero is, I think, at Plug and Play today. So she is watching a lot of great startups that we've worked with over the last couple of weeks. So she's here with us in spirit. The goal of this show is to become a fully prepared conference presenter. These presenters are recognized for their authority, respected for their leadership, and rewarded for their impact. And with that being said, we're going to be geeking out today on the voice of the Changemaker. Isn't that right, Anthony? And
Yes,
there's
it
such a
is. So
delay. Here we go. Let's do this. All right. So you're going to throw them up there, Anthony, on the Changemaker, because I think where we can start is the ramp up. So, Craig, I think you and I can geek off of this.
Let's do it. We didn't prepare. We can do this. What's a
So,
change maker, Brian? What's a change maker?
so Changemaker is one of the 7 voices that we focus on in order to develop a connection, relationship, and ultimately trust with our audience. So it's the last of the 7 voices. It's not really something that you can launch into in terms of a presentation. You've got to build trust. It's like the ask. Like, here's where we're going to go. I've given you all the information, all the insight, all the stories, and now you're saying a change needs to be made, and we invite you into this. You are a part of this. So I think it's a huge voice that closes out a presentation in order to get people out of their seats. If you're not hitting these different voices that we've talked about in the last 6 weeks, and for those of you who are just chiming in watching this one, you can go to heroicvoice.com/Jim and go into our Academy page to watch all the previous episodes on the 7 voices up to this point. So we've started out with the contributor. We talked about a storyteller. We talked about a visionary. We talked about educator, advisor, and it moves us to this point right now, Craig, where it's the invitation to get people out of their seats. So they're not just saying, hey, sounds like a great idea, and not connected to their heart. Or they're not just saying, oh, that just really tugged at my heartstrings. What do I do now? It brings it together for us collectively to take action. So I'll pitch it over to you, Craig, to kind of get your top of mind insight on what you're hearing when it comes to a voice of a change maker.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you said. That this is unique compared to the other voices because you don't start historically with the change of a voice, the voice of a change maker. And whenever I think about building a talk or a conference for that matter, is I think about the attendees and I think about what's the shift from the time I started this talk to the time the end of this talk. What's the movement? What am I asking? Why am I even communicating? And I think that that's why this is the final piece. Like in an organization, or if you do marketing, your call to action. But first, I have to build credibility. And those are the other voices we spoke about. How to use those well to set a vision, show what's possible, use data, be relevant and reliable, and something that people can trust. All of that comes together to that final piece of the voice of a change maker. So what? So what are we going to do with this information? Because if not, it doesn't matter. And I think it's important in any level of communication. I work a lot with executive teams and with data, and I talk a lot about story and data telling, which is what we're talking about here. If you can present good, reliable data that people believe and trust, but it's just data with context, story, that's the teacher voice, or whatever voice we're using, the authority voice. At the end, now we've given all that. So what are you going to do? And that's the change maker, and coming in at the end and saying, let's make a difference in the world. Here's how you can apply this. Here's how we can take it all, put it together, and move forward. So I think that's why it's so unique. You earn your way to this point because you've done well in the other things. And this is the final. If they leave after this talk, what's different for them?
Yeah, I love what you said. I want to make a distinction there because you said the voice of a change maker comes at the end of a presentation. However, the point that you added, I think is really invaluable for those who are creating an effective talk. You start by thinking from the end, right? It's like you got to think from the end in order to guide the conversation to the end. But once you take the stage, that the voice of a change maker is the end. So I mean, you got to think from the end, design from there, but then present. So it then leads back to
Like
the
start
end.
with the end in mind, right? Like
Yeah.
when someone walks into my talk and they hear me talk, what do I want to have shifted for them at the end? And then my strategy is how to use all those voices, how to use those tools. This is the win. If you do a good job, this is the putt. You know, you get it in the, for whatever reason I came up with that analogy. It's the final shot.
I love it. I love it. All right, Anthony, let's flip the slide to see if we can see some of the other components of this. So what you're essentially presenting here is from the perspective of a team, Anthony, I'm assuming, but this is the synchronization of it all. It's are we all on the same page? And whether you're on the stage trying to get your audience on the same page, or you're amongst a team trying to get everybody on the same page, this is where the alignment comes through in order for us to take action. If you have a team that's fragmented and everyone's doing their own things or they're back in their silo, then the effectiveness of the messaging campaign hasn't brought the entire team out of those silos and brought them together for the same messaging. Same thing with a go-to-market strategy. If your audience or your market is confused, they don't know where to buy in, there's a lot of questions, the synchronization of that communication strategy is off. And so refinement needs to be made. You go back through the voices and the strategies and the visions and all the things that we talk about in our library and in these presentation gyms. There's something off. There's something not landing. So Craig, over to you. Anything top of mind to add to this in terms of getting your market, your team on the same page when there's a communication strategy deployed?
Well, we've been talking a lot of these last few sessions at the time of year. A big thing that a lot of organizations are thinking about these kickoffs, right? So yeah, it's great for a CEO to get up and have a great vision and inspire, or for people on the team to come in and inform. But what's it all for? Again, so with the sales kickoff, it's that it could be the end of the CEO's talk. It could be your strategy for the whole thing. Is the so what, the call to action, the change. Like this year, here's yeah, we've laid it all out, but here's some of the problems, and here's what we're going to do this year, and here's what you can expect from us. Let's go make a difference. So it really is the synthesis. It's the point. Why do we communicate with people? Why do we want to inspire? We want to change their minds, have them think different ways to communicate something. So I think it's really like the synthesis of the whole purpose, especially when you're talking to a group of people. If you don't bring it all together, then they're lost. Or to your point, Brian, if you've missed the mark and they're misaligned in silos, then it's hard to make this mark. So you got to go back and say, how do I do all those other objectives first so that I can get to the final objective, which is the change?
Yeah, one thing that we often talk about here in the presentation gym, on stage, in workshops, is within the connection triangle, within moving from voice to voice, within the presentation, within that conversation, there's going to be this continuous loop that is a call to think. Like, does this make sense? A call to feel. Is there a connection to this? Is there an immersion emotionally into what we're doing? And then finally, the big tell of a change maker conversation is there action? And it's back to this idea of being in a silo. If people go right back to their comfort zone and stay in their silos, then once again, the call to think, the call to feel, and ultimately the call to act has not been triggered in the conversations of leadership, in the conversations from stage, and ultimately the conversations to you and your market, your team, wherever that may be. So this is a part of the connection triangle and that engagement loop that we often talk about. Talk a little bit from a cultural design perspective, Craig, how this loop is important in terms of bringing culture and community and people together when it comes to thinking, feeling, and acting in synchronicity with those around you.
Yeah. You know, when you were just saying that, Brian, I was looking at this model and I realized if you hit the first two, you have entertainment, right? The third is change, is action in the world. Like we can all sit down and listen to a song and feel something or have a message and maybe get some information. But I think in most of our work, we're not here putting on a gym for entertainers, for people to get up and play a song. We're talking to speakers, and speakers are usually getting up to share a message and to drive some sort of change in the world. I can tell you also that I have had experience building community. So the way you asked that question was great because at least in the community we built, the idea was change. Like, how do we improve the workplace and organizational culture? And we deeply embedded action into all the components because it was a lot of people go to things and get inspired and leave. But we really wanted to say in everything we do, in every event we put on, how do we connect the dots and think about what can you do next week? What can we just talked about how to have more difficult conversations in the workplace. But if we just leave, we've left that hanging. We've just shared something with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But if we get people to think a little bit about, you just learned something, how can you use it? And you can do this from a stage. And if you're doing a workshop, you can even have people sit around for a couple of minutes or think or jot down notes, get them to process this idea of like, we've just given you the data, we've just given you the stories, we've given you the framework to think about. While you're in this headspace, what's it mean to you? And how can these concepts apply to your life and your world? And if you can get somebody to write that down or share it with another person or even share it up to the stage, the going from here out your mouth like really helps people lock in on something, and then they do it in front of others. Now you're using all kinds of social things. But my point is, for me, I'm passionate about this, Brian, because everything I do is about, I want to leave it better than I found it, and I think we can work better, our cultures can be better, how we do things together can be better, and it comes to this. If we don't take action, we're just sitting around telling each other the same stories. How do we turn what we're learning into life? And I think that's this final piece and why it's so critical.
I think what we do here as well, I want to, something you just talked about is what is actionable. Something we do well here is that we keep it simple so that there's immediate actionable practices put in place so that you can start to redesign behavior or navigate change. And I think that's what's great about good speakers as well, is they make the complex simple. And I received a great compliment yesterday in terms of a structure of a panel that I was running, is how simple and applicable it can be for the audience. And I've learned and practiced that here, because you may get a big name speaker, but their information isn't practical for the audience. It's interesting, but it doesn't get them to act. And I think, again, when you practice that communication and you want to see change, you're simplifying it, right? You're not only engaging, but the comprehension of the audience sinks to the level that they see themselves doing this, and you invite them to do that thing. So love how you tapped into
Hey,
that.
Brian, I'll ask this. I'm trusting here because you've done this before. I think we're going to see if my hypothesis is correct, but you've done a lot of events and so have I, which means you've probably read over feedback from events. What's the biggest thing? I mean, I'm gonna see what comes out, but I think, what's the biggest thing you always see in the feedback about speakers?
Oh yeah, so geez, I'll give you top of mind. Engaging is one, right? Storytellers. But when I hear those two things, good storyteller, engaging, it's because the information that was shared had the capacity for the audience to see themselves in it. It's
Actionable,
not
yeah.
just going over their head. And that also includes is, hey, I want more Q&A. The audience wants to see themselves in your conversation. So those are three things that I've always gotten feedback on, is how that you can tell the story, keep it simple, and keep them engaged by practicing what they're learning.
Yeah, and they want actionable insight. To your point, they want to see how they can do something with this. And that's one of the things that seems to pop out all the time with speaker feedback is, great, it was neat to hear that story, but I want action. I want to walk out of here with two things I can do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think it's so interesting. I didn't know going into where we'd go with this, but it's a very powerful part of this journey and of the voice, because it's what it's all about, really. This is, like I said, it all culminates here. Did you do your work to lead you to a place you can shift somebody to action?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And I know we can geek out on it. And so Anthony, any other slides you need to throw up there, like the prompts we can play with that allows us to practice this if we can see it? All right, so advisor, storyteller, leader. So I know what an advisor is. Advisor is essentially just kind of bounce this off of you, Craig. Advisor is somebody who has given you options, right? That's so empowering when you have options, and as the presenter, you say, "Hey, these are good choices," and you've gave them insight on those choices. Really, if you're just up there eliminating choices and you say this is your only option forward, you're not empowering the audience. And then the storyteller part, it's based on those options, you have given case studies, you've shared stories, you've allowed your audience to actually feel the theoretical and turned it into a practical, and then ultimately gave them the leadership choice to move forward according to their own plan. And that to me, again, is back to the connection triangle, the engagement loop. And if you're missing any of those, I don't think you're going to get the response you want from your audience. Craig, over to you.
Advisor, you're credible, and you're putting yourself in their shoes. You understand them, you understand their issues, you're putting them in their shoes, and you're saying, hey, look, I've been there, and here's some options maybe you weren't thinking of. We all have that experience where you're milling over something and you talk to somebody and they throw out some options, not just one. They don't tell you what to do. They give you some, you're like, wow, this person's credible. They can see it. Like, you can do this, you'll get X. You can do this. But then moving into that storyteller. So what's this going to look like? If any direction we move, what it might look like, or whatever decision you make is going to look like X. Ultimately, it's options, but then contextualization. I mean, storytelling is taking all this and putting it together. It's something. It's our brains. It's what we do. It makes us uniquely human. And then leader. And if you want, you can follow me, or I've been there. I'll take you on this journey. I can show you the way. So, even as I say these things, they're so archetypical. Our brains are so, when done well, you don't have to be trained on this stuff. It's like music. You don't need to know music to listen to music. You don't need to study this to understand a good storyteller or a good leader. We are programmed to do this. And I think in this work, what we're trying to do is help people understand these components and really refine it, because this is how humans respond to one another. And if you can do it from a stage, wow, it's just such a cool, powerful gift.
Yeah. So for those of you watching this on the recording or maybe even on LinkedIn Live, I just want to chime in on what Anthony has shared in the comment section. He shared that the advisor is this incremental and experiential growth, which we should go for. So growth meaning like here are our options. Again, back to the choice. And we see advisor all the time with startups when they say, well, here's our competition and what they're doing. And rather than demonizing them, saying they're the evil empire and they're the villain, you're really saying, here's what they've done well up to this point. The next one, here's what they've done well, and then we're building on that. And the same thing with a particular market. If you're saying that, oh, the market's broken or the strategy's broken, it's really not favorable to you in building trust with your audience. You don't need to tear down to build upon. And so that's what really our audience is looking at, is like, what do we need to know up to this point? Because history is important. And if you're saying history is showing us, oh, it's all broken, then it's more confusing than it is guiding. So again, as an advisor, you really want to guide people into a space of education. And so you really position yourself as an advisor in doing such. The second part is the storytelling. Once you've now kind of given that history, you've provided those choices. It's what does the journey look like? And you do that through storytelling. It's like, here's what we did. 1, 2, 3. Here's a case study that's done it like this. They're just like you. And now you're connecting the heart. And then finally, the leadership part is there are next steps. Here's what we can do now. And Craig, I don't think it could be this. We need to do all these new things. We need to boil the ocean. I think it's that one small step, like, hey, follow me on LinkedIn, grab my email, let's grab coffee, let's have a second conversation.
Yeah, you don't
Leaders
have to
really,
solve it. Just
yeah,
what's our
they
next step?
exactly. And I think that's what it is. So I just wanted to chime in with what Anthony was saying here in the comment section. I hope I didn't put words in your mouth, Anthony, but if I did, we'll iron it out in editing. So I think that's it, Craig. Unless you want to give a parting thought, we'll go to
I
our
think
gym
I
portion
think
and
you
just
nailed it. I think I didn't realize how special this one is of the voices until we got into it today. It is a different. I mean, the voices are all unique, but this one is a special voice, and I'm happy we spent the time on it.
I love it too. All right, so we'll go to our world famous commercial. I like to remind everybody this workout is brought to you by Heroic Voice Academy Masterclass. Go to heroicvoice.com/masterclass to learn more about the application process to enroll there. Today's presentation gym is part of a 9-week workshop, and each week we'll focus on one presentation skill and give you insights and practical tools for developing a deeper connection and recognized for your authority, respected for your leadership, and rewarded for your impact. We're broadcasting on Zoom and LinkedIn Live. If you'd like to jump on our show at any point while we're on the live, go to heroicvoice.com/gym. There you can click the Zoom button and join us for a pitch practice. If you missed any of it, you can connect with us on LinkedIn. You can read the latest articles, watch the latest shows. But if you're looking for the whole enchilada, go to heroicvoice.com/gym. There you can find all the resources and tools to position yourself as a fully prepared presenter. You could also book an appointment. You can go to our Academy page. I mentioned that earlier. You can watch all these shows and look at all the online courses and templates. And our free stuff is better than any paid stuff you'll find anywhere else. Finally, take the scorecard for your personalized assessment, which is really cool. And we're happy to go over that in a discovery call with you to line you up for the masterclass. Our topics are part of a weekly workout program that gives you a deeper dive into our topic for the week. So throughout the week, we will have on Monday, we'll put out an article, we'll put out some sort of informational about what we're going to be doing for that week. On Tuesday, you can check out my show, Silicon Valley Impact, on 92.9 FM if you're in the South Bay of Silicon Valley, or you can go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and look up Silicon Valley Impact. We have a ton of great guests giving insights about innovation as well as how they have moved the message forward with their startup or their fund. Wednesday, we have storyboards and more information based on the topic. Thursday, we're always here for the presentation gym. And then Friday, we summarize all that in a weekly review. Ton of great stuff. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Craig, I want to give you the last word. I've kind of just taken up all that time, but man, thanks for riffing with me today. Appreciate
Absolutely. And just to anybody that watches this, look, I love this topic. I love speaking, and I learn something every time we're together, so it's just a validation to, invest in yourself. Like you said, the first step is free. You show up, hang out, and work on your talk. Like I said, if I'm learning every time we get together, thinking about topics or how it applies to my life, the change, I think it's just more people come and take advantage of this amazing opportunity, because number one, so many people are scared of it. Number two, so many people want to do it. And this is a place to do it. And to Brian, to your point, it's safe. This is a lab. It can get messy. It's okay. So you can do it really well out there. Nobody just gets on stage if it's something you're scared of, and this is the place to hone the skills and get the support. So I hope you join us.
So we're going to stay here. We're going to hang out in the gym. If you're watching on LinkedIn Live, come on over and join us here. We'll be here for the next half hour. But other than that, we'll see you all next week. To all you on LinkedIn Live, take care, stay safe.